Okay, welcome back to the channel, everybody. So on Sundays, I want to continue the podcast. I was doing a podcast a few times a week, sometimes once a week. But I think, in between doing the trading videos during the week, on the weekend, Sunday night, we're going to do the longer formatted podcast, anywhere between like 20 to 30 minutes or so. And I've got a lot of great topics that we're going to talk about in this episode. So you can catch this live on YouTube. Many of you are already watching it. I am uploading to my new channel, but if you'd rather listen to the audio, or if you're on iTunes or Spotify, you can find this show pretty much anywhere where you stream podcasts or music. We are on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker. Definitely follow my Spreaker. You can stream this on BitChute, YouTube. There's a lot of different options for you guys out there. Make sure to follow me all over social media. I'm on Parler. I am no longer using Twitter for my own personal reasons. Not going to get into it in this video here or in this podcast, but you can find me on Parler. I'm trying to make the move towards alt tech and more free speech oriented platforms. So please do come and join me. The topics in this video are going to be everything from gold and silver. What can we expect the next week or so? I do want to talk about the drop that we saw on Friday. Instead of focusing so much on my particular trades and sort of what I'm thinking, like the moves that I'm going to be making, I just want to focus more on the macro environment. But also, I did some research this weekend, found a really fantastic article from a guy named Ryan Miller, okay? And the name of the article is "The U.S. Dollar is Alive and Well." And this guy basically goes point by point for every sort of dollar bear argument and makes a case for why the dollar is actually going to be in demand. So very, very interesting article. I'm going to talk about it. What I want to try to do in these podcasts is not really, give a lot of opinions. I want to try to find what other people are saying, and then, from there, kind of just leaving it up to my audience as to, how you think things are going to play out. So that's what we're going to attempt to do in this video. Now, a lot of people are wondering, why didn't gold rally on Friday, right? We had the Democratic sweep in Georgia. Democrats now control both houses. They also control the Oval Office, or soon they will control the White House. So they control all three branches of government. Why didn't gold rally on that news? You also have the promises by Joe Biden to print more money, right? He's talking about $2,000 stimulus checks, trillions of dollars in deficit spending. And so people are wondering, why didn't the precious metal market rally that day? So if we look at the price at the end of November, all right, it actually did rally. Gold rallied from about 1767 at the end of November to 1954 last Tuesday, right? And that was the day that, Georgia voted. So gold and silver, they're correcting, right? Let me go ahead and show you guys a chart. I mean, this is the gold chart right here. This is the silver chart. But you can see that, this is definitely a very big pullback. Let's take a look at the gold futures as well. The futures contracts, if you're on like Thinkorswim or another platform, the silver futures you can find by /SI, and gold is /GC, or at least that's how you find it on TD Ameritrade's Thinkorswim. And so these pullbacks are dramatic. I mean, it does, in the short term, it looks like we fell off of a cliff. But in the long term, we are definitely still in this uptrend, right? We're not, I don't believe that gold is in a bear market. And I do believe that this is going to be a great opportunity for people who maybe want to, try to set themselves up in some positions in either gold or silver. Now, there is a big green candle right here. Is this maybe a 3-bar play playing towards the downside, about to play out here. Is this, maybe a dead cat bounce? There could be a little bit more downside. I mean, I'd like to think that the downside is over from Friday's major drop, but we could be wrong about that. So, as you guys can see behind me, hopefully you can see this behind me, it is possible that we go up from here, but I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of hang out in this range right now. So gold and silver correcting. I think this is a healthy correction. Let's just go back to the silver chart real quick. And for the listeners out there, you can follow along. We did break out of a wedge pattern on silver, and then as you can see, we broke out of the wedge pattern and into a daily supply zone, which I think also contributed, right? There was a lot of sell orders on these future contracts. So there's the other theory that, the big banks are manipulating the price of gold and silver, that the big banks can basically, drop the price at will, and that they're trying to shake people out of their positions. I wouldn't put it past them, but of course, we would need a lot more research, a lot more evidence to be able to point to that exactly. I think there's a number of factors that we should look at. And this is why we love gold and silver, right? Because they're volatile, and the mining stocks particularly can be volatile, but that's why we're in them. The DXY, right? Let me go to the dollar index chart. On Thinkorswim and other platforms, it's the $DXY is how you find that. Wow, that's really zoomed out. I wonder why. Let me go to a daily chart on the dollar index. Not sure what was going on there. Yeah, so here's the daily chart on the dollar index. Definitely some kind of bear market for the dollar, but we are in a weekly demand area. As you can see right down here, we rose, what was it? Above 90 on Friday, and the 10-year treasury yields are rising as well. So these are the conditions for lower gold and silver. But you have the Fed long-term committed to low interest rates. You have Biden already talking about $2,000 stimulus checks. And now that we've got the Democrats controlling all the branches of government here in the U.S., it doesn't look like that's going to be too hard to accomplish. Trillions of Fed deficit spending, trillions of government deficit spending here in the U.S. So fundamentally, nothing has really changed for gold and silver. I expect silver to be much higher within my lifetime, and probably within the next few months, few years, than it is now. I definitely expect gold to be higher. It would be nice if we could ever see $700 an ounce gold, but we have to be realistic here. Now, just as we have to be realistic about the price of, gold and silver and where it's going, I'm not claiming that silver is going to be in the triple digits next week, right? But I do think silver will perform very well in my lifetime, right? The silver that I am acquiring, the gold that I'm acquiring now, I am going to be able to use that to supplement my retirement when I'm older, right? And it's another way of getting out of the system, right? It's a hedge against the system because we haven't lost total confidence in the dollar. If that were true, the dollar would have collapsed already. But, just as we're being realistic about silver and gold, we're using it as a hedge against the system. There are flaws in the system, and the system does crash, right? The system is not invincible. We still want to be realistic about what's going on with gold and silver and why we are in it. That being said, we also have to be realistic about the dollar, right? The dollar consolidated for a couple of days and made a move towards the upside. Is there some more downward potential for the dollar? Maybe, but I do want to discuss the bull case for the greenback, right? For the dollar. Is there, despite the endless supply, it seems, of dollars, is there actually even more demand? So, from a chartist point of view, right, from just looking at the technical analysis, and technical analysis is not everything, but you can sort of plan your entries into positions by looking at the technical analysis. You want to do your fundamental analysis. You want to do your quantitative and your qualitative analysis fundamentally. But then you can look at the technical chart to decide where you want to enter. It does look like we got a little bit of consolidation. We got sort of a balancing out red candle 3 days ago, and then we rose above 90, which is critical. Now, for those of you that are new to this kind of thing, the DXY is a dollar index, and it's sort of it's a dollar index that it's the dollar weighted against a average of a basket of about 7 different world fiat currencies. The yen, the won, the euro are all in there. So it doesn't have all of the information, but a lot of people use this just to determine, where the dollar is and where it's going. Before I get into all this dollar stuff, I do want to talk about Bitcoin really quickly because it is a relevant topic. Everybody's talking about it, but the Bitcoin, it's at 40,000. I haven't checked tonight, but Bitcoin has nearly doubled, if not doubled, in the last 15 days or so. Is the intrinsic value right? The intrinsic value in quotation marks for the listeners out there. I'm sort of using quotation marks with my fingers. Is the intrinsic value of Bitcoin double what it was 15 days ago? I don't think so. To quote Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, Bitcoin is definitely a big old bubble. Peter Schiff talks about this as well. He's not only a Bitcoin bear, but a dollar bear as well. But while, with Bitcoin or with Tesla, I really feel like these very highly inflated, maybe overvalued and bubble territory assets, this is where the herd is piling into, right? The herd is piling into Bitcoin right now. I see comments all the time, people saying, I sold all my gold stocks and went all in on Bitcoin, right? At $40,000. Now, could it go to $50,000? Maybe. Could it go to $100,000 before it drops? Maybe. We just don't know. It's such a speculation. But when my coworkers are talking about, putting their money in Bitcoin or putting their money in Tesla or Microsoft, to me, that's a sign that it's getting very, very dangerous, right? When everyday people on the street are talking about putting their money in these assets, I have to wonder, is this what the institutions are doing? Is this what the big financiers of the world are doing, right? Is this what the elite traders and investors are doing? If the person walking down the street next to you is investing in one of these assets, who is selling that to them? That's basically my question. Who is selling? Because for every buyer, there's a seller. So I can't help but wonder how dangerous some of this stuff really is. But Bitcoin, we could see it rise even further. And should we get discouraged, right, if we're not in it, or should we be discouraged when comparing that to the precious metals? I don't think so, because again, I'm just going to go back to there is really no intrinsic value in Bitcoin. It's an interesting experiment. Don't get me wrong. The computer science technology behind the whole thing, it's very interesting. And I totally understand why people are in love with it. But the fact that there's no intrinsic value, and also to quote Ray Dalio, the fact that nothing is actually priced in Bitcoin, right? To buy anything. People say, oh, you can buy things with Bitcoin. And it's a store of value. Well, it's not really a store of value because it doesn't have any intrinsic value, but it's also not a form of money because nothing is priced in Bitcoin, right? Everything has to be converted into dollars, or I should say the cryptos. All of the cryptos have to be converted into dollars before you can buy anything with it. So until we see, things priced in cryptocurrency, it's not even really money, right? And the third thing is that it's a currency, right? If I'm worried about the currencies in general, why would I want to put a lot of money into a quote unquote cryptocurrency? Maybe I'm misunderstanding it. You let me know in the comment section down below if you disagree. But let's go on and talk about the dollar, okay? So the dollar, is being affected by a lot of different things right now. Macroeconomics. We've got the illness that is going to be dominating headlines. It looks like we've got lockdowns in several different countries. All three stock indexes here in America are at all-time highs. You've got stock indexes throughout Europe and throughout the world that are at all-time highs right now. And so some people are expecting higher hyperinflation with all of these printed dollars, right? And we know that a lot of these equity markets, they're being pumped up by the stimulus injections, the quantitative easing. So the expansion of the money supply is extraordinary, right? There is no denying that. But a lot of people think that because the money supply has been, expanded so much that it's getting to the point where it's all going to collapse, right? And is that realistic? Is it realistic to expect the dollar to collapse this year, next year, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Well, let's take a look at all of that. I found a very interesting article. This is actually coming from, the article is by Ryan Miller, but I found this article from a guy called The Uneducated Economist. And, he does videos about the Fed and about the dollar, and he follows a lot of this stuff, the price of lumber. So very, very interesting content. Definitely recommend that channel. But he pointed his audience to this article right here. The U.S. dollar is alive and well. And in this article, they talk about how everyone is talking about the supply of dollars. And a lot of the dollar bears are using that as, one of the reasons why the dollar is going to collapse. But what a lot of people are not talking about is the demand for dollars and all of the dollar-denominated debt and promises that have been made. We also have reserve currency status. With the U.S. dollar, the reserve currency status is powerful. And there are countries that are trying to sort of turn to, digital currencies, right? We have China with the central bank coins, I think is what are they called? The CBDCs, the central bank CBDCs, central bank digital coins, I think is what they're called. And there may be a gold component to this eventually, but the idea that countries are just abandoning the dollar right now may not actually be true. And maybe it is. But what this article goes on to talk about is that the supply, there is not enough supply for dollars. So a lot of these countries, they're making deals in their local currencies, right, regionally speaking, simply because there's not enough dollars out there. The demand is so high for dollars that they can't print enough. Now, like I said, a lot of promises have been made in dollars, and demand will be high, according to some of the evidence in this article, for quite some time. There's a lot of charts. It's a very good article. I'll actually link it down in the description below, so you guys can check this out. But just running over a few other points, very important points here, I think. And I don't understand all of this, right? I'll probably read this article 2 or 3, 4 times to really, grasp a lot of the very insightful information in here. But the current, the amount of dollar-denominated debt in the world, according to this guy Ryan Miller, is bigger than the supply. And that being said, quantitative easing, when we think about how that, it's basically money printing and they're devaluing the dollar, well, they're not really devaluing the dollar relative to, let's say, the euro, because and I've talked about this before, when the American central banks start printing money or do quantitative easing programs, other central banks around the world in lockstep follow suit. So as America prints more dollars, the euro prints more dollars. So this is sort of, this is why global reserve currency status is so powerful. And, another really interesting argument, he talks about the Japanese yen in this article, and how they printed like quadrillions of yen. and they never went to zero, right? They didn't even have reserve currency status. They printed quadrillions of Japanese yen, and now they're actually second, I think, except for the Swiss franc. So you definitely need to check out this article. Like I said, I'm going to read it a few times. It goes into a lot of the history, which I thought was really interesting. Just check this out, because a lot of us, I think, we think that, we hear the dollar's going to crash, that Peter Schiff, right? And I love listening to the guy, but he says that the world is going to leave the dollar and force America back onto a gold standard. And that, because of the quantitative easing and all the money printing, there's no way that we're not going to experience hyperinflation. There's no way that the dollar is not being completely debased. And, I do wonder if all of that is realistic, right? I do wonder, these people, they're, we call them the elite for a reason. They know what they're doing. Are they doing things that are bad? Probably. Are they doing things that are harmful? Most definitely. But they know what they're doing. They're very, very smart people. And I know a lot of people like to, talk trash about Jerome Powell. But he's the head of the Fed right now for a reason. And the monetary policy that they have been going with, they've been doing it for a reason. Whether you or I really understand that is another case. But this whole global currency, ecosystem, it's very complicated. But when you think about the dollar next to anything else, right? The Chinese yuan or Russian rubles, who wants Russian currency outside of Russia? No one. Who wants Chinese currency outside of China? No one. Who wants dollars outside of the U.S.? Pretty much the entire world. So it's definitely something to think about. Again, I want to be realistic about all this stuff. Like, am I bullish on gold and silver? 100% absolutely. I have watched gold and silver only really rise in price, not only since I've gotten into it, but since I've been alive, really, right? Think about where gold was 100 years ago. Think about where it was 50 years ago. I think someday we'll see $10,000 an ounce gold. Same thing with silver. Silver's high. The reason I like silver is because I think there's a lot more upside potential. We know silver hit $50, about 10 years ago now? And so it is possible that silver could hit $50 again. That would be about double what it is now. Gold has never hit $3,000 before or $4,000 before. So is it possible for gold to do that? Yes, it's definitely possible, but we don't know. We don't have any history of it doing so. We do have history of silver doing the same. So I'm very bullish on the precious metals, not to mention for the fact it's just a cool hobby and it's a way to get outside of the system. If you're not totally confident in your nation's currency, silver bullion, gold bullion, jewelry, like all this stuff is a great way to stack wealth outside of the system. But all that being said, I think to be ridiculously, eternally bearish on the dollar or on any currency, it's kind of ridiculous because this stuff is so complex. Most of us really don't understand how it all works anyways. I mean, we're all kind of students here learning. These are institutions that have been around a lot longer than we have. They'll probably be here a lot longer than we will. And even though it's not gold and silver, even though, it's fake money, it's just currency, right? There is a lot of, there's a lot of utility in it. It's really hard to just look at the dollar, look at, what we see going on with the money printing, quantitative easing, and just predict, the dollar's going to crash. It's over, right? The dollar's going to crash. Everybody just wants to get out of their dollars. And the information is, when they say like, China's abandoning the dollar. Well, it could be that China just doesn't have enough dollars, right? Maybe this is part of the reason they're expanding the money supplies because the demand for dollars is so great that countries are forced to sort of negotiate and trade in their own, their regional local currencies. So just something to think about. I don't want to be eternally bearish or bullish on anything, but I think fundamentally gold and silver are still where it's at. I don't know what it is. It's almost like a spiritual thing that's calling me towards precious metals, because the stocks, it's so speculative. I really truly believe silver especially is undervalued, but even gold is undervalued. These stocks are so speculative. Some of these companies are basically just propped up by the Fed. They're essentially zombie companies. Things like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, extremely speculative, and it's not even tangible, right? Gold and silver is a tangible asset that I can hold, that I can have access to whenever I need it. And, for some of those reasons, I'm very excited about it. But I also want to be stacking a little bit of cash, a little bit of dollars. I don't like holding a lot of stuff in the banks. But, one thing I've been doing is stacking bankroll, right? Not just dollar bills, but quarters, rolls, rolls and nickels. I've been separating copper pennies and rolling those back up. And I think because we had the coin shortage last summer, I think it is possible that they'll try to move us to a cashless sort of state, or at least the supply of cash will be a lot less. If that does happen, I'm hedging against that by stacking bankroll. And so, it's almost as like last summer when we had the coin shortage, it was kind of like a commodity in and of itself. Right, businesses were really strapped for coins. We couldn't even get more than one or two rolls of quarters out for laundry. So, I definitely think we could see a repeat of that. They could try to move us into a sort of cashless phase or cashless state. And so I definitely want to have some of that. So I've been collecting that as well, as ridiculous as it sounds. What else did I want to mention in this video? Speaking of dollars and silver, okay, the Congress just passed this bill, HR 6192. All right, it's HR 6192, and this is basically a law that's it's called the 1921 Silver Dollar Coin Anniversary Act. And what they're doing is they're printing a 2021 Morgan silver dollar. And I thought that was very interesting. I got this from another YouTuber I watch, Maneko64. What does this mean? It could just be a commemorative thing, right? This could be more of just like a collector's kind of thing that the mint is doing, but it did have to get passed through Congress, and it'll be the first time in 100 years, right, that a constitutional dollar will be made. And the last time they made any constitutional money was back in 1964. In fact, I was counting money the other day at work, and I did find a 1964 silver dime. And, that's interesting because it goes to show us that it's still in circulation, right? The silver is still out there. Most people don't know about it. Most people are not looking for it, but it is still out there, okay? But the other thing is that, silver has kept up with inflation. That silver dime, 40 years ago would have bought a candy bar. You could buy a candy bar with the silver dime. The silver dime at face value can't necessarily still buy a candy bar, but if you take that dime in and you trade it in for dollars, if you can somehow convert it into dollars at a coin shop or a bullion shop, somebody who wants the silver, its weight in silver, which is about $2 worth, $1.80, $2 worth, depending on where silver is at, $25 to $27 right now. The weight in silver, when you convert that into dollars, will still buy a candy bar. So it has kept up with inflation. I believe silver will continue to keep up with inflation. And, look around. There is some very cool stuff out there still in circulation. Silver coins. At work, because I'm counting a lot of money, I've been finding all kinds of cool stuff. I live in sort of a military town, Norfolk, Virginia Beach area. So I see a lot of foreign currency out here that I've been collecting. So I'm stacking all of that stuff, even just from sort of a collecting kind of mindset. It's just a cool hobby. It's a cool thing to get into. And I find that it really goes well with my trading and my investing in sort of paper assets, equities, stocks. It's just a cool thing to tangibly have something in my own hand, stuff that I can look at. I've been collecting the silver certificates as well, star notes, right? You will see those out there. Look for dollar bills that have stars in the serial number or at the end of the serial numbers. Just stacking anything cool like that, I think in the long run is going to be, I'm bullish on all of it. I think when I'm 80 years old, having this kind of stuff, is definitely not going to hurt. So let me know, what are your eyes on? What's on your watch list? What are you looking at? What are you watching right now? Where are you putting your money? And, if you're stacking silver, what are you stacking right now? Eagles? Are you stacking maples? Are you stacking constitutional silver? Let me know what it is you're stacking. What's on your watch list? What are you looking at? Please do comment down below. Always enjoy hearing back from you guys. Make sure to smash that like button. Much appreciated. And we'll do another podcast like this next Sunday. With that, I will see you guys on the next one. As always, God bless.